Welcome back to another video of me, Tamil, here as your host in the garden. Welcome back. I am the woman in the garden. Today I'm sipping, what am I sipping? Zest of the Spirit. Oh, this is a new one, y'all. This one just dropped. What I love about this blend is that even though it's really good ice, and I made it because I wanted something that had that citrusy flavor as an iced tea, but I love that it also gives me that lemon, honey, tea type vibe that you love in the wintertime. Today we're talking about surrender. Oh, surrender, surrender, surrender. The thing that I love about pole is that every time I come into it, I come back into my body. And in the beginning, it's like, oh, I just want to do this trick. Like, oh, I just want to. And then my body's like, no, you actually have to lean all the way in. And you cannot be tight and quick and slick with this. You got to be slow and sexy. And not to say that all of pole needs to be like that, but the way that I come into my practice needs to be like that. And that has a lot to do with surrendering to my body, surrendering to ease, surrendering to what feels natural. Okay? My femininity, my sensuality. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm excited because surrender is something that I think gets overlooked in the healing journey, or at least, let me not assume. Let me not assume, and let's just talk about it. Man, it's been a journey. I started pole, I think it's been about a year and a half from now, maybe a year and a half from now. And I came into it kind of, y'all, I was completely under the illusion, right? The illusion that I was gonna start doing pole to, or as a inlet to a side hustle, right? A side hustle. And I call it an illusion because I think that we think that when things are not going to work out, or as our last resort, we're going to go to sex work. Because essentially that's what we're saying, that if the 9 to 5 doesn't work, if this doesn't work, if that doesn't work, then we're going to result to using our body as a means of getting capital. Not to say that, let me be very clear about saying, and on my politics of sex work, right? Because not only is pole so much more elaborate than just getting on it to appease and entertain and enthrall men and get men's money, right? It's so much more than that. And the fact that it's used in the strip club is to elevate the art and the sensuality that it gives the body. And it is an art, and performance and movement and somatics and being and expressing with the body. And it makes sense why it's placed in that environment. But like I said, I was under that illusion that that is what I was going to use it for. And I did. I went to audition at a few clubs, and I went to audition in a few spaces where I very quickly realized that pole was not the center of those spaces. The body and sensuality was not the center of those spaces. Lust and very low vibrational aspects of what I was looking for, is what was centered. And that's not what I was looking for. So I started, okay, back into my pole journey, right? I started with a friend of mine that was already in a space to teach and offer in an intimate environment, which is what I was looking for because I knew that it had already been some time since I was in my body. And I wanted to come into that in a safe space. I wanted to come into that in a space where it would be celebrated as opposed to speculated. And it was. I felt so celebrated. I've been thinking of it all week.
Pull yourself up.
Taste of soft and white. Hands
Okay, I see you. You can tuck and grab the knees too. That's a seated ball. You can keep the legs straight. I can't wait till you watch this back when you finally get what you're trying to do. Yes.
And learning to not only just come back into my body, but in learning how to express myself through movement and express myself through presence in my movement and in my body and how I wanted to communicate what I wanted to communicate, right? And like I said, it was such a safe space for me to do that. So shout out to Acacia and shout out to Lotus Pole and the space that was curated for me to come back into my sensuality in a safe and empowering way. And that is what I want to really highlight, and not just wanting to explore other ways to safely come back into your body, but also the space and the environment and the community that's around you to help you in that work, because that's needed. The community is needed. And I'm just grateful that I had it. I'm grateful that it was available to me when I wanted to embrace that aspect of my healing journey. So let's go back. Where are we? I feel like there's so many things that I want to express, but I'm trying not to become long-winded or make this too long. So let me get to the gist. After the private lessons, y'all, I felt empowered. Okay. I felt safe enough to be in my body. And even though I would say the way that I came in, it was still very Aries, right? Very masculine. I was doing it, and that felt good. That felt good to be doing something that allowed me to at least be in my body in a way that felt safe and sexy. And so I got my own pole, and it was more of a practice of let me look up these moves, let me get these tutorials down, let me get these routines down, instead of let me be in my body, let me be on the pole, let me feel what it feels like to be in this experience. And that is where I had to shift my perspective and lean more into releasing, I honestly control, period. I'm like, I can't really control the process of how my body comes back into feeling sensual. I can't control the process of how I come back into finding a home in my body that allows me to fully express myself, finding a language that allows me to fully communicate myself with my body. I can't rush that. I can't control that. I have to be in that. That process doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. And that's why I'm so comfortable posting and sharing my pole videos. And I'm going to classes now. Why I'm so comfortable sharing that process, because I'm not really concerned with what it looks like. I'm more so in the process of experiencing it for myself and experiencing what it feels like to not really need anybody else's validation of how it needs to feel or how it's supposed to feel or how I'm supposed to feel about myself and my process. That's the trusting. That's the surrendering to what feels good for me. And it does feel good. And it looks good. And I'm also, the surrendering part is also teaching me to not be so hypercritical, because there's room for imperfection. There's room for the learning. There's room for, like I said, coming back into the process and understanding that that is imperfect in itself, and trusting that I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing to get me to the point where I feel like my relationship with my body is not healed, but healing. And right now I feel like I'm healing, and that feels good. So that's when you know it's working. That's when you know it's working. I'm gonna now share my reflection on surrender, because I wanted to write about it from the perspective of not just what's holding me back, but also what I'm wanting to come into and what I'm wanting to release to come into that. So I hope that my movement and my words will translate in a way that allows you to understand where surrender shows up for you. And I'm also hoping that I planted some seeds that will allow you to come into, surrender in your journey in whatever time feels natural for you to feel invited into the process of trusting and listening to yourself. But thank you for coming to the garden. Thank you for enjoying my amazing reflection on self and pleasure and sensuality and presence and breath and movement and language and all of these amazing things. I'm hoping that I planted some seeds that will allow you to invite surrender in whatever time or way feels natural and easy for you. And I'll be back to water those seeds. Till next time. Surrender as in devotion, commitment to the vision in your heart. What are you doing it all for, if not to enjoy, to relish in the fruits of your labor and your love for yourself? Surrender as in yes, saying yes with your whole body, with a gentle nod, with the fullness of the heart. Yes to what's for you, what's calling you, what's already on the way. I know it looks easy, right? Yeah, I know it looks easy, but my legs are feeling the burn right now.